Hello there, and welcome to A Lot of Help with James Lott Jr. I am James Lott Jr. of JLJ Media, my online network, where we talk to all kinds of people about all kinds of things. But this show is a coaching show. So we talk to people who are here to help you make your lives even better. And what is one thing make your life better is finances. I'm in my 50s. I'm a grandfather of almost five, and I've been really looking at all of my finances and what's going on in my life for the rest of my life. I'm starting to see the later years happening, hopefully not for a while, but getting it all together and getting ready. This guy, let me read you his bio. He's a certified financial planner, so he knows his stuff. He went to work stuff. He's a three-time #1 best-selling author. He is the owner of Lake Growth Financial Services, a financial services firm in my favorite city, Chicago, Illinois. I love Chicago. He also has his own podcast. I listened to about 5 episodes. It's called Not Your Average Financial Podcast, and it's with Holly Bach, right? Is her name? Yes. And so he's just doing all kinds of stuff. And so I want to bring him on to talk to you about finances. And he's the fourth Mark Willis that I know. Mark Willis.
Wow,
I'm
that one surprised me. Four or three other Mark Willises. I need to meet these guys. Was one of them the country music singer or related to Bruce Willis, maybe? Or that's great.
Yeah, no, one of them is from Chicago, based
Oh,
in
wow.
Baltimore, like you. And two others, I met one in LA and one in New York.
Well, I guess I'll just have to live up to the hype then. That's great.
I've met two other James Lott Juniors, so I do know
Wow.
how weird that is sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm the original.
that's right. OG, you got it, man.
Yes, exactly. Well, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me on.
so I have to ask, of course, because it's like in your title, it's on your Instagram, everything. What makes you not the average financial planner?
Yeah, the average media, the oh so average financial industry, I see basically churning out kind of cookie cutter financial products and solutions that really fall flat in this economy. The last 90, 120 days or so, I've been getting people coming to me saying, Mark, my 401k has become a 301k or even worse, a 201k. They're seeing inflation soaring. They're seeing some of their darling tech stocks dropping by 75 or 85%. Their goals are being hit up against the hard rocks of reality and supply chain shocks and wars. And, the list could go, their crypto is down. So the list goes on and on. We have to find some sanity in a world that's gone mad. And I believe that it can be done, but we have to look at things different than your oh so average typical stock jockey investment money guru, and do something that makes sense in today's economy.
That's why I like you, because I said sometimes you got to think outside the box, and everybody's going to tell you the same stuff, and it may work for some people, but it may not work for others. And that's why I love hearing about people's other approaches. I think that there's more than one way to skin a cat, as you used to say. But I don't know why you want to skin a cat. That's just a weird thing.
I don't even want one way to skin a cat. Yeah,
like, that's a weird saying. I don't know why.
yeah.
Makes
Well,
me.
that's right. Well, and we have been taught by, again, the media and by our financial guy or gal that it's written on stone that we got to put our money at risk. And here's hoping that we'll make it through to retirement and then beyond retirement. And the more I got into this myself, the more I realized how paper thin the logic is there. Just case in point, there's some research that is done every year. It's done by Dalbar. They're a third party independent research firm, and they do a research report on the real return of actual investors who are in the markets. Now, this is after 30 years. Okay, so a 30-year longevity study. How are we doing as investors in the market? And I'll ask, clients, hey, what do you think is a reasonable rate of return to get in the stock market after 30 years? We're not talking 1 month here. We're talking a 30-year period. And they'll tell me, 12%, 10%. It's an unbelievable number, but I can't argue with the data. The report says the real investors got 2.29% over the last 30 years. 2.29%, James. That's dramatically. Now, that's terrifying, right?
Yes.
Why is that such a big deal? Well, if you were planning for 10%, and you only got 2.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference between a steak dinner in retirement and cat food,
Yes.
single ply toilet paper, all that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Oh
it
yeah.
matters, right? When people lie to you about the return you can expect in the market. Now, how is that possible? It's true that the market did get 10%. The market got 10% over the last 100 years, really. And that's where that kind of belief system comes from.
Yeah.
But us investors, we are not the market. We are human beings. We are real live people. We bought in at the right time and the wrong time, and we bought in over a period of time with our 401k contributions and all that mess. So we're buying too high and we're selling too low and all that. And that lowers our return due to volatility. I'll give you a little math fun, and I promise to keep it light for folks that are just driving down the road here.
Because I'm not good at math either. So let's.
All right, good. Well, this is a little math magic here, but it proves the point of what I'm saying. So let's say that you had 10 grand, James, and you wanted to put that into the market.
Okay.
And let's say you invested that money, $10,000, okay? And let's say in the first year you doubled your money. You got 100% rate of return. Your $10,000 went up to $20,000. So far, so good, right?
Yes.
All right, so we're at 20 grand now. We're starting year 2, but in year 2, whoops, you lost half of your money. 20,000 comes all the way down to $10,000 again. You lost 50% of your money in year 2. All right, so you started with 10. You went up to 20. You're back down to 10. Do you feel any wealthier? Of course not, right?
Yeah.
All right, so after 2 years, what was your rate of return? Well, most of us would say 0 is our rate of return. We didn't get any wealthier, yeah. But the real average rate of return on that experiment we just did, the average rate of return was 25%. 100 minus 50 divided by 2 is 25%. The stock market does average returns, but we don't actually experience average anything. That's why it's important to say we're not average. No one is average. We're special. It's just like Sesame Street tried to tell us, we are special. We can't do average anything. We are the real person. Here's another way to say it, and then I'll hush. Let's say that you couldn't swim. Now you're 6 foot, you're 10 foot tall, basically, James. So
I'm a big boy.
Yeah. But let's say that. Can you swim? Are you a good swimmer? Are you okay? Yeah. You're pretty good at swimming. Let's say I couldn't swim. I'm about 6 foot tall. So let's say that I couldn't swim at all. Okay. And let's say that you were trying to convince me to cross the river to get across to the other side. And let's say that you were trying to convince me with all that you could. And again, I'm 6 foot tall, and you told me, hey, Mark, on average, this river is only 5 foot deep. Would I feel comfortable crossing that river? On average, it's 5 foot deep.
I would think you feel comfortable.
Yeah, on average, 5 foot deep, right?
I would think that, yes.
But in certain parts of that river, it might be 20 feet deep.
Right, that's true.
Because averages mean nothing if you got to cross that river, and that's the problem with averages. They mean nothing. So yes, that's where the not your average comes from.
I like that because now I can understand that, folks, because I failed algebra twice. But I did I got a C finally in high school. No, but that is because you're right. Averages are just a grouping of different levels. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I just gave me. I love having epiphanies on my own show. That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Now, why does that matter? It matters because if folks think they're getting 8%, 10%, but they're not, they're getting half or a third of that. That's really going to run them dry. And that's why we're in a retirement crisis. That's why people can't retire. And that's why half of people who are forced, I don't know if you realize this, but it was startling to me, according to the U.S. Commerce Bureau, 50% of Americans are forced into retirement before they're ready to. Either they've got a disability or they're laid off or yep. So we've got to find better solutions. Thank goodness there are some. But we cannot rely on the averages that the media or that our financial guy or gal is selling to us.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to bring this up to you. So sorry to throw him under the bus, but you tell me the story. My brother, a little younger brother, he just turned 50. He was at his job for like 20-something years, but he finally signed up for a 401k. I asked him why he hadn't done it beforehand. I think I was going to live this long. So he lived that long. So now he's 50 years old, and he just started his 401k. Will he get anything? I'm like, well, I mean, is it never too late? We get to be the big question: is it never too late to start? I guess that's kind of the question on some of these things.
Well, I gotta, hats off to anybody who's ready to start saving and living within their means and packing money away. That's
Yeah,
a great goal.
yeah,
The question is, where should we park it? The hardest job in money in your personal financial journey, in my opinion, is living on less than you make. That's like learning how to swim. You gotta, doggy paddle and get your nose above water a little bit. That's I think so important. It's gonna be the difference between sink or swim, is to be able to park some money somewhere. The next most important question is, where should I put it? And I feel like most people never really stop to think, where should I put my money? So I don't know your brother's situation, of course, but asking questions like, well, what do I want my money doing for us, for me and my spouse or my family, or just me personally, if it's just up to me, where do you want your money to go? That's a great question for your brother or for anyone listening. And it's free to ask that question. You don't have to call on some, $10,000 an hour financial guru. Just ask yourself, what sort of, let's get the labels off of it for a minute. Let's take all the labels off and let's just talk about the function of money. Let's
yes,
get rid of the nouns. Let's talk about the verbs.
I like
What
that.
do I want my money doing for me?
Yes,
Do I want it to be accessible to me? Well, the 401k fails that. It's not accessible. Do I want it to be protected or in some way, reasonable, competitive, and predictable financial results? 401k fails that experiment too. There's nothing predictable about the 401k. Can I access this money in a way that's tax advantage or even tax free? No, not a 401k. A 401k is taxable when you take the money out. Most people don't realize that they're creating for themselves a ticking tax time bomb when they put money into that 401k. In fact, most people, I'd say 99% of the people I talk with over phone or over Zoom to have one-on-one financial consultations across the country, they tell me, Mark, I believe taxes are going up. Just got off the phone with somebody, who is getting hammered with taxes, and yet he still thinks taxes are going to go way higher over his lifetime. I mean, your brother, I hope he lives a lot longer. If he lives, let's say another 40, 50 years, let's say, that's a long time for Congress to make up their mind and raise taxes. Now, most people, yeah, you give Congress enough time, they'll finally get around to it. I promise.
that's very true. That's very true, Mark. That's very true. Yes.
So, when you look at $1 million 401k balance, let's say, you feel like a millionaire until you realize that you've got a partner in that business with you, and his name is Uncle Sam, right? So, how much of that 401k does he own?
Right.
He hasn't decided yet. He literally didn't vote. Congress will vote on how much of that 401k belongs to them versus you. So, I would, first of all, hats off to your brother for packing money away.
Yeah.
Two, the 401k is so young. It's an experiment. It's an experiment. It's so young, actually. It's not even old enough to retire yet because it was started in 1981.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And isn't that crazy? Yeah. Isn't that
That is crazy.
So, we're in this grand experiment right now, and yet we think that the 401k was carried down from the mountain by Moses. Like it was just, been around for thousands of years. But
Okay.
even the guy he's actually the guy who started and found the part of the tax laws, 401 subsection K. He found it. He started implementing it in the early 80s. He's still alive today, and he says in public interviews, you can look it up. His name's Ted Benna, and he's the father of the 401k. He actually says on record that he's created a monster and it should be destroyed and started over again. So we've done a good thing by helping people learn how to pack away and save. But think about, like, where could we put that money? And back to your brother, what could he be doing with that money? Does it meet his goals? Does that meet his needs? It's up to him, of course, but those are some questions to be asking.
That's so funny. I never really thought that, because it's funny. I've been working since 1984. I had my first job at 15 years old,
All right.
and I'm working for, oh my God, almost 40 years. Anyway, I've been working a long time. I never heard about 401ks until I guess the late 90s when I started getting, more like better jobs. I started actually when I worked at Morgan Stanley, so around that time. So that's when I first heard about 401ks. And around the same, and then around the early 2000s, I heard about college funds. The 529, I think is what it is, right? So I got that for my grandchildren. it was almost too late for my kids. It was like, oh, they're already half grown. So I was like, okay, so the grandchildren, I got that started. So it's like, it's funny. These things are kind of young. I never thought about how young these things are.
Hmm?
Like you said, they can't retire them. So it's like so funny. I don't think college funds go to college yet either. I don't think.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
That's kind of funny the way you said that. I was like, I like the way you said. I'm like, that is kind of true. So you're right. So this, wow, I never heard of that. It's kind of an experiment. Because like my parents, thank God, they are set. I'm one of the lucky, blessed ones that they both worked for the city for like over 40 years. They retired when they were able to retire, so they get their full benefits, medical, everything.
Pension.
My father pension. My father was in the Navy for 20 years, so he gets that
Right.
also. Like, so they're set. I don't have to worry about them. They're set. I'm the entrepreneur. So I have 401k because I had when I had my corporate job and I kept it. But I'm an entrepreneur. I have this house and everything, and luckily it's a house from the family, inherited from the family. So my mortgage is low. My friends hate me in Los Angeles. My mortgage is very low, and everything. So when you said live, so I actually live below what I'm making because I'm an entrepreneur. Because I said I want a better life. I hated my corporate job. Just after all I did, I was making hand over fist. I was making lots of money, but I didn't like it. But I said, let me pay off my bills. So I'm not in debt. I'm not even in debt. I have no debt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in debt.
Great.
I went to college in the Stone Age, so I have no college debt. So I basically, paid all that off a long time ago. So I used that job as a means. I knew once I got to my 40s, I have no, and as an entrepreneur, my 40s, I'm starting over. I had no idea what my future was going to look like. None.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, 13 years later, I'm doing okay. But there were some rough years there too, where I thought, that was kind of crazy. I own real estate in like Pittsburgh. I have a few things I did when I had the money. But you're right. I'm seeing the ups and downs even of all that. Seeing the college funds go up and down here and there, and it's very interesting to watch because everybody just tells you, do this, it'll be great. In the end, it'll be great. And I'm like, well, it might be great, but then it might be just okay. So I guess I like your message with that. It's like we have to really look at what it's doing. So now, let me ask you a question. I'm at 53 years old, and I look at my portfolio. Is it okay to look at your portfolio and say, okay, I might need to change some things? Is that something we should be doing, looking at our stuff?
I am going to go against the grain here again, not your average financial planner,
right.
And say, yes, it is. It is okay for you to look at your portfolio and make a change. In fact, what kind of world are we living in where they convinced us not to look at what they've done to us? I mean, I got to say it. It sounds kind of harsh to say, but any other abusive relationship, you'd want to get away from it.
Right.
And what is it? They are being paid a fee for you to stay where you're at and for you to not look at it. Okay. So, when they say things like, don't look at it when it's hurting you, or it'll always come back, or, it's your fault you're in this position, or, these are things that that doesn't sound healthy to me. So it's okay for you to ask yourself, hey, is this thing still meeting my needs? You brought up your parents, man. I think that's great. Great for them. That's awesome. And great for you too, by the way. You've done very well for yourself, it sounds like, and made some good choices. And it's okay to have some money in non-guaranteed speculative investments. Totally fine. I always say, folks, guys, there's a difference between saving and investing. Saving is for money you cannot afford to lose. Investing is for money that you can afford to lose. So for the money I can afford to lose, I personally have invested. And I have also decided that I love the pension so much, I bought a couple for myself. As an entrepreneur, you don't have to work for the city, or you don't have to work for the government.
Wait a minute. I did not know that, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, you can buy your own pension. Yes. It's a pension-like strategies that give you an income that lasts as long as you live, on a guaranteed basis, just like a pension does, just like Social Security. We all have Social Security. So you can build and buy your own pension.
I didn't know that. Okay, so who do you go to for that then? You're just regular financial planner? You just go to
you'd want to pick the right financial advisor. Give me a call, of course, right?
Of course. How come to you? No, but I never knew that part. I've never knew that.
Well, I'll tell you, this is kind of a cool story. So I was going through, Chicago has these wonderful museums, and just like LA does. And I was going through this one that's little known. It's a very little museum, and it's called the Ancient Oriental Institute, and it's just off of the University of Chicago campus. And they've got this incredible collection of archaeology from the ancient Near East, and it's just stuff from Babylonia and cuneiform tablets. I'm a big geek and nerd for that sort of thing. So I was just kind of walking through the halls, and I stumble across, I'm going past like mummies and cool stuff like that, and I noticed this long parchment along one of the walls, and I look underneath it at the little placard, and I'm like, well, what is that? And it's written in some sort of ancient Egyptian or some sort, and apparently it was an annuity contract from 300 BC.
What? That's hilarious. Okay.
Blew me away. So what is an annuity? Well, annuity is Latin for yearly income. Basically, it's essentially it's a stream of income payments that this guy, probably some soldier in Alexander the Great's army, he's getting paid for life as long as he lives. Maybe he's still out there somewhere, I don't know, but he's getting paid. His contract says paid for life. And that's, I think, what's missing in a lot of people's financial portfolios right now. We have variable 401ks.
Yeah.
We have variable stock accounts, brokerage accounts, heck, our crypto and our meme stocks and all that. Nothing's guaranteed. Our businesses too, you and me, right?
Yeah.
Our businesses aren't guaranteed. So what if you had a way to always have that guaranteed, predictable, steady, permanent lifetime income that would last as long as you did? No matter how long you live, you always get that income. That to me seems like a bit of financial sanity in a world gone crazy.
Yes. I learned something new today. So folks listening and watching this, you learn something new. I did not know that. Yeah, because for me, it was very much, I knew as an entrepreneur, I'm entering the world of uncertainty. And it's beautiful chaos sometimes. And in some cases, it's wonderfully calm. I mean, it's a little bit of everything for me. And so I wanted to make sure I had stuff set aside just in case, because March 18th, 2020.
Yeah.
My world changed in ways I had no idea. And for a lot of us, because I was here in LA, of course, the two fields I work in shut down. We were in a lockdown in LA. All the studios shut down, and then organizing in someone's house, that's a no-no anymore. So it was like, so okay. So luckily, because I am good with money. I'm very frugal, or cheap, what do you want to call it? I'm very frugal with money, and I don't buy a lot of stuff, and I'm a very practical person. So I made it through the pandemic. And that first year of that lockdown, I had hardly any new business until I had to figure out, I had to pivot and change. But I'm glad that I was careful. I made certain decisions early, and that's kind of the point I think that you're making. I mean, like, just find out how your money can. That's when you find out when your money can work for you. That's when you find out.
That's right.
I was sitting there like, James, you're not panicking. You're not. I said, why I panicked on March 18th? I panicked for a minute. I did. I had a moment. I had a glass of Maker's Mark whiskey for a minute to calm myself down. But also I believe in God, so I did a little prayer and talked to Him, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. But luckily, I had things in place that I was able to do the initial survival until I could figure out what's going on. I think that's when you find out if you're mice or men.
Yep. Oh, that's so true. Yeah, I think hard times make strong men, or women, as the case may be.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're exactly right. The you don't prepare for the hurricane when the winds are blowing. You did all of your prep work without even knowing. Pandemic what? What is that? Lockdown what? But you were preparing for something beforehand. Little did you know what it would be. But I think the folks that were caught swimming naked, as the saying goes, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. Unfortunately, there was a lot of financial distress and concern, and I met a lot of people who were not ready. And here's the question: do you really think this is the last time in our life where we're going to have financial uncertainty?
Right.
And if you don't think that, I mean, we've had 3 major financial crises just since the year 2000.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we done with that? Is volatility a thing of the past? I don't think so. So the question is, where can we go where there's going to be some sort of guarantees, predictability, that you can lay against a very uncertain future. And I think, in my opinion, as a certified financial planner, don't look at paper profits from your stock portfolio. Don't look at the paper profits of how much your home is worth. Those things go up and down, and
All
you
the
really
time.
don't know what it's worth. Yeah, yeah. You got
Yeah.
to look at things that are built around something more stable. And I was thinking about this, James, and you've got me thinking again today. Like, what is it about real estate, or
Yes.
these annuities like I mentioned, or any other like contractual wealth? And it's the written word, it's the contract. Like,
Yeah.
what is it about your real estate that makes it real? It's not just that we can put our hand against the wall and feel the bricks and all that, because if you think about it, without the contract that says you own that property, without the contract to your tenants, if you have renters in there, without a contract to them, all you really got with real estate is squatters' rights. You know what I mean? Whoever's got the bigger shotgun basically owns that property.
Yes.
So, in civilization, as far as I can tell, the most bedrock form of wealth, and this goes clear back to that annuity I saw, or even further to the pyramids, it's the contract that really builds your wealth. So, do you have in your portfolio, do you have a contract with your future? Have you written yourself a contract? Like, do you know what money is supposed to be for you 5 years from now, 10 years? What is money? What's it even for? Have you written yourself a contract with financial abundance? That's the first place I would look. Like, personally, within yourself, do you have a contract with money? And then second, like literal, technical, practical financial contracts, can you get some of those in your portfolio to make sure you got guaranteed contractual growth on your wealth? Like your real estate, you got a contract with your tenant, you got a contract with the city that says I own that property. Where'd you say it was, in Pittsburgh? Or
Pittsburgh.
Yep. So you got a contract that says I own that place,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a renter in there that's paying me some checks every month. That's a cool way to build some wealth right there. That's a little bit more secure than, say, whatever somebody said AMC movie theaters or Bitcoin was worth yesterday.
Okay. Oh my God. Unfortunately, we kept you on the show 5 hours. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. You kept me on 5 hours. All right. So, for example, for me, it's funny you say that. I didn't know what was going. So in 2008, we were in recession, right? That's when I quit my big job and said, I'm changing my life. I was 40 years old. I was going to change my life at 40. Everyone thought it was crazy. They thought it was correct. Oh my God, you have this great job. You're making, $250,000 a year in San Francisco and this high-rise apartment and all this stuff. And I was just like, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I would be an actor in Hollywood. So they thought it was crazy. But anyway, so I've morphed from that. I did some acting and all stuff. But I morphed from that to more producer stuff. But it was funny. I didn't really think about it then. I know things are cyclical. I do know that. I'm old enough to know that part. But you're right, because literally, how many years later? 2020. That's how many years? 12 years later, we went to something major again. And you're right. So, folks, this could not be the last time something major is going to happen. So now you got me thinking, like, yeah, I really got to make sure I have that money ready, because 2 years from next year, something could happen that could just totally make us get back down. I mean, like I didn't, but you're right. But in 2008, I didn't think about it. I did not think about, well, this could happen one more time or 2 times. I just thought, okay, it's happening. I'm going to push through it. And luckily, I did take some steps. I dropped my living expenses. I dropped the trips. I dropped all the stuff that that was just spending money like water, so to speak, kind of thing. But it wasn't so much because I was thinking about the future in that way. But now I got myself thinking about that. In 2019, I turned 50. I sold my house in Pittsburgh. So I'm just going to sell one of them. And again, I didn't know this was going to happen. But what I did is I invested in my business. I put some away, of course. I did my stuff for taxes, that set away. But when I had left over, I put some away, and I put some for my bed. I bought equipment and keyboards and ring lights, and I bought all this stuff. Again, little did I know, since then, now I use all this as how I make a living. Studios shut down, had no idea we had to do it ourselves. So I did look out. And you said to look at paper. All the stuff I have, I view also as my future, and also financial. Is that a good way to look at it? Also, I look at my iMacs, my iBooks, my lights, my LCD projector, like all that stuff. That's also money too, right?
Well, I'll go a little woo-woo here for a minute, but I
Okay.
promise to bring it real practical too. You are the center of that. you are your greatest investment, James. So when you invest in yourself, your education, your business, you have within you the best rate of return that's literally possible. And I can prove that on a mathematic basis, but it's true on a personal basis too. Like we're talking contracts. Let me go really deep here, like way deep, like cellular level. So every single cell in your body has a contract fighting against the chaos of the universe. It's called your DNA. All right. So you've got a written contract saying, I'm going to stand here against the forces of the universe, the entropy of the universe. I'm going to fight back and I'm going to protect the wealth that's inside this cell. And it's the DNA, right? So that contract, that DNA is literally your contract with life fighting against the disaster, the chaos of the universe. And you're saying, I'm going to have a written contract with life. And when you invest in yourself, whether it's biologically, like helping your body get better or whatever, in better shape, or you're investing in your mind where you're taking courses or you're buying things for your business that you control, when you've got the control, some manner, right? We can't control ultimately anything, but we can influence more than we think we can. I do believe that. I believe we can't control everything, but we can influence more than we think we can. So when you buy your ring lights and your keyboards and your business is invested into, you have some more control over that than say what the price of Apple was last week, or what the price of Bitcoin is going to be tomorrow, or whatever. So when you've got a personal investment in yourself, man, you've got an incredible investment. And, I'd say that is one of the first and best places that folks should look. Do I have some sense of control over what the outcome is going to be? And don't hand over your authority of your own financial life to some financial guru. Even me, I don't want to be anybody's financial guru. I'd be happy to be your consultant, your coach, but I'm not going to tell you, here, you should invest in XYZ or ABC, because I know you know yourself more than anyone, and no one should care more about your financial life than you. Because that internal locus of control and agency, I love that. I love working with people who are swimming upstream. They're not just tennis balls floating down the gutter of life, James. They're moving upstream. They're making things like you. They're making things happen. They're building their business, and they're changing lives. So maybe a little more deep than you wanted, but
I love that. No, I always want to go deep. I always want to go deep. I love that. No, because the thing is, you said something earlier that's very true about, if we boil this conversation, all the hoo-ha this conversation down, it starts with your thoughts about money. It starts with your relationship with money. You have to start there. And I know a lot of folks are hard because we're coaches, and so I'm a coach. So that's what I help people do, is look inward to go outward, so to speak. So I know that it's sometimes hard to look at yourself. You think it'd be easy. Think, oh, I see myself. But it's harder. We can look at you and go, well, Mark, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. We all can do that. But to tell yourself, you know what, I'm not great with money. I have not been great with money, or I have made some mistakes with money, or I've been viewing money as just something that's just fluid. I just kind of, it comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes. I should change my thoughts about how I view my paychecks and how I view what. So I think that you said it earlier. I'm like, that's the beginning. I think that's the beginning of all. You can't do any of this other stuff. You can't do anything until you look at what money is. And I know for a fact it comes from how you were raised, how you grew up. I grew up poor. I grew up with immigrant grandparents and I grew up with all that, but they were all hard workers. And so I saw that. My grandmothers, grandfathers, father, mother, they were all hard workers. I noticed that all of us kids, we work hard. I can't help it. It's like my family comes from the Caribbean. We work hard. It's always a joke. We always work hard. Yep. But I think we saw that. And even though we weren't rich when I was growing up, actually all my parents and uncles, they all became very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my cousins were all pretty much successful in our fields. So there's something about the relationship with money. Now, I have a couple of cousins who went the other direction because they didn't see it. They're not it. So they the money flow just goes out everywhere. So I think that's what I'm learning. I got all these notes down too, folks. I put all these notes on here that you said. And that, to me, I think it's the number one thing, is kind of like the race with money, right?
You got to have a contract with money. I think you really do. You could sit down and you could live your life, because here's the thing. Everybody else has a plan for your money.
Okay. They sure
think
do.
About it. Yeah, that's right.
Do.
You call up any of your financial guys, they're going to have a plan for your money. You call up your Toyota or Lexus or whoever you get your cars from, they're going to have a plan for that money, aren't they? You talk to anybody at the mall, they're going to have a plan for your money.
Mark, AT&T,
Amazon, yep.
Amazon Spectrum Video, like
Disney
everybody
and
plan for you. They're planning for your money. That is true.
so jot it down. Take 5 minutes after this episode, or pause the episode as you're listening, and just come up with a little financial plan for your money. Financial purpose statement. What's your mission statement with money? Why are you in a relationship? Money's such a weird thing. It doesn't grow on trees. It doesn't come from nature. It's something that only humans have. There's no other animal that has money or anything like it, really. So what are we doing? What is this thing called money? Why does it, and there's a great history there, and we don't have time to get into it all, but jot down a little statement about your purpose with money. Why do you have money in life? You could live on a farm in the middle of Nowheresville and live without money. So what are you doing with this thing called money? It's such a big part of our lives. We work 8 hours or more a day for it. What's it for? And I did some thinking on this myself, and I'm still chewing on it, right? It's still processing. But here's an example of what I mean by a financial purpose statement with money. I decided that I wanted to write down in one sentence as clearly as I could, why is money in my life? And, folks, feel free to use this as a starting draft, and then you can edit it and delete it and start it fresh if you want. But my own personal financial purpose statement as of this year, and it could change, sounds something like this. I want abundant time, energy, and attention for my family, mainly outside serving community. To me, that was enough for me to say, all right, I can get up out of the bed every day and go get this thing called money, serving clients for this abundant time, energy, attention for my family, mainly outside serving my community. That to me was my own little rough draft purpose statement. And maybe yours is totally different, but make it yours and make it something that you feel like, yeah, I can see myself, sludging through the snow, or, not in LA, but getting up every day and getting to work. For that, whatever that might be. So what are your thoughts? Any have you ever done anything like that before?
No, it's right. It's traffic in LA.
Yeah, there you go, man.
I curse it every day, and I'm like, I live here, and it's not anything new, but there's traffic everywhere, every time of day, on the freeways. No, it's funny. I love that. I just took some notes. I'm like, I might use notes. I love that. Well, that's what I did. I kind of did when I came back to LA and decided to become an entrepreneur. I had to really sit down and ask myself, James, what we gonna do? And I kind of had a 10-year plan. It was loose because I want to be an entrepreneur, so it was loose. But I was just saying, okay, James, you're taking over the home that you grew up in. Your mortgage is cheap, so I'll tell people, my house was like $700 a month. I mean, it's up. My friends hate me in LA. I have this huge house, huge yard. I got garden trees, and they just hate me. They hate me. They lovingly hate me. But I was like, okay, and so I split that in half with my brother. So so I kind of said, okay, I need this much a month. Okay. And then I was like, okay, James, so how are you going to live? Because now you're going to stop the whole, a trip to Mexico, sure, I'll do it right now. And a trip to this, because I have the money, I was going to do it. Or I'll make money later, right? Well, no, not in this business. There were months I got no phone calls or callbacks. This is Hollywood's a rough place. Then I started my business, which I had to start slowly and gain clients. And that could take a little while too to make some money. I mean, I didn't make any money the first 2 years of my business. I mean, that's just normal.
Yep.
But I was saying that it was like I had to look at myself and go, how am I? I guess I didn't know this. I was making a contract for myself of how I'm going to spend this money. I was like, I have this much here, this much here, this much here. I'm not pulling from there at all. I'm leaving that alone. I'll work from this, and I'll kind of just like go back and forth. And so I was watching levels and choices that function where I could still have enough money for this much a month that I have to pay out. Drop some things I didn't really need. I mean, I really did go through the whole thing. And my friends always like, because they always say, well, Tauruses are like that. You're a Taurus. Of course you're into money. I'm like, I'd like to make sure. I used to make a joke. I make $1 out of 15 cents. That was always my joke. I can do that. I know how to stretch money. I mean, I grew up in a family who did this. They knew how to go to the store and buy 20 things for $1, so to speak, and make a meal. I'm exaggerating, of course, a little bit, but that's kind of how.
Oh, I've met some people who can make 15 cents out of $1 too. So I'd rather the former, right?
There you go, right? Exactly. I'm like,
yeah.
But it's true. It's so true. I have friends who just lose money by just waking up. They lose money. I'm like, how do you lose? You haven't done that yet. So I think that's So I guess without knowing it, now I'm getting this epiphany now. Without knowing it, I was making a contract with myself, saying, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This
Yep.
is what I'm willing to do." And
So
yeah, go ahead.
So you've got a contract with your money, and you're right. It can be as drilled down on a monthly basis of, hey, I'm going to set this aside for my taxes. I'm going to set this
Yeah,
aside for my groceries. That's a contractual relationship with money on a monthly cash flow basis. I'm going to set that category aside, and I'm going to say there are some other ways you can write contracts. So I've given you another one, which is that financial purpose statement. That's a category, a mission statement with money. Let's talk about financial contracts that are literally baked into the financial world, right? So we've been getting, let's bring it down the ladder some. Like you can get contracts for wealth accumulation. Real estate is one. We've talked about that. Annuities, that's another form of contractual wealth. The younger you are, the more you can buy your income at a discount. So I folks always say to me, well, Mark, don't you have to be like 70 years old to get an annuity? No, I've got several annuities myself, and I know folks in the 20s and 30s who buy these things. The purpose of the annuity is to get a future income for a discounted price today. And that's no more different than why we put money into Social Security. If you don't like annuities, boy, send me your Social Security check, because that's an annuity, right? Annuities are, I know a lot of people have bad thoughts about them, but old-fashioned annuities deserved the bad reputation they had. But
okay.
modernized annuities these days allow us to have a contractual income with pay raises. Oftentimes they'll keep up with inflation and still leave a gift to the grandkids someday as well. So that's a contract with your income. There's other forms of, there's insurance contracts, there's futures contracts. There's lots of ways you can build in a contract with your wealth where you can say, hey, on age 65, my net worth is going to be X, guaranteed. That's pretty cool. My income is going to be Y, guaranteed. That's kind of cool too. So building in true financial wealth around contracts, along with the stuff that we, are hopefully investing in, like our business, like stocks, the things, you can really become you don't have to be an expert at this thing called money to make it, and even be as successful as it sounds like your parents are.
Yeah, and I like that. I have a lot of friends whose parents aren't, and I just, my mother was very much. She taught me. She's like, okay, do this, because I was the 20s, and I did the whole. I mean, I had oh my god, this is like I'm aging myself, folks. It was Providian was my bank. I had all the credit cards, man. And even though I was in debt, it wasn't even a lot. I would say I was like maybe $10,000. There are folks who are way more than that, obviously. But for me, when you have $0,
Mm-hmm.
10,000 is a lot. It doesn't matter if you have no money. I was a student. I was young, whatever. But she had said to me when I turned 30, figure out your life now in your 30s. That's what she did. And so she had, they're set. I mean, I'm very, I say the word blessed because a lot of my friends have to worry about it. I'm taking care of them physically. They have physical stuff going on. But even with that, they got good insurance and everything. I don't know about that. But it's just financially, that's one thing I don't have to worry about.
That's awesome.
And and I wish that for everybody who has aging parents, because I know it's not the case all the time.
It's not easy. Yeah. Not easy for a lot of people, and good for them and good for you guys. It sounds like a great relationship. So, I think, yeah, having just a thought. I mean, it's sort of like Stitch in Time Saves Nine all over again,
Yeah.
So, man, yeah, that, and I think for your audience, I'd just say, give some thought to what you want your money doing for you. Don't let other people tell you what to do. I got my first contract with money was $120,000 of student loan debt. That's a contract, right?
Yes.
I had about 10 grand in credit card debt. That's another contract.
Yeah.
Your mortgage, that's our mortgages, that's a contract. So why does everybody else write your contracts against you? Let's build some contracts in your favor too. So, my $120,000 of student loan debt, I had to get out from under that rock, man. And it was scary. And there were nights and weeks and months where we didn't know if we were going to make it. We can't even bankrupt the thing. So we felt just like entrapped. So, building contracts that are in your favor rather than just having them leverage against you. That's, I think, the pathway to sanity. And again, it's not so average. Your typical financial advisor won't look at contracts. They'll look at paper wealth. They'll look at retail amateur investment products that you can get, some index fund or target date fund.
Yeah.
Those will be, yes, but again, the returns on those are meager, and a more concerned about what does your contract tell you? What's your guaranteed net worth going to be at age 65, 70, 60, 55, whenever you need to tap into the money.
Yeah. Well, that's what we'll end here. I mean, you have to come back on the show. You just have to come back on the show. I have more things I want to talk to you about, but I've learned some stuff. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
You're great. So tell folks if they want to talk to you more, where can they, and also where your podcast is. This podcast is good too. So talk about, it's your turn to promote.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And what a cool show. And thanks for a great conversation. Yeah. If you'd like to build real wealth with contracts embedded within, I can help. We've got a team of advisors that work all across the country. We help make sure that your net worth goes up on a guaranteed basis every single year. You can reach out to me at kickstartwithmark.com. That's where you can get the podcast. You can get links to that. You can get links on my calendar. You can get my calendar and chat for 15 minutes to do a phone strategy session. That's kickstartwithmark.com.
I'll put that in he's a rhymer too, apparently. So we're gonna put that in the description so you can go to I like that Kickstarter. I mean, it's catchy. It's catchy, Mark. It's catchy.
Appreciate that.
All right, Mark Willis,
thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. And I'm James Lott Jr. You go to a lot of help. That's 2Ts.com for all of my goodness over there. And when you're here, if you're here, wherever you find it, like, rate, subscribe, copy, whatever, comment, share with anybody who needs to hear this. That's actually most important. If you're like, my cousin should hear this, send it to your cousin. And see, we're on every audio streaming service. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Google. So there's no excuse. Your cousin should have one of those things. So send it over to them and have them listen also to this. And like I said, I learned something. So I know you guys have to learn something too. I appreciate all of you. And seriously, I want everyone to have a comfortable last act of their lives. I think that's something that we need to think more about, like you said, in this crazy world. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.